This is Roll Call for this edition of African Drums. The African drums are sounding.
Welcome, I'm your host, and this is African Drums. Tonight, my guest is Dr. Ng-A-Qui. Please join us as we introduce to you the Cuffy 250 Committee. Stay tuned.
For just $1 million, you can have the cultural experience of a lifetime. Visit Accra, including Nkrumah Mausoleum, Tomb of George Padmore, Elmina and Cape Coast Castles, Kumasi and the Volta Hydroelectric Dam, and much, much more. A non-refundable deposit is required for booking by February 15th, 2014, and the final payment due by May 15th, 2014. The tour begins on July 22nd, returning on August 6th. Contact Tom Dalgetty at 226-5159 or 690-7433.
Welcome back. Good evening, Dr. Ng-A-Qui. Welcome to the show.
Good evening, thank you.
Okay, so we're talking about the Cuffy 250 Committee. What is the Cuffy 250 Committee?
All right, the Cuffy 250 Committee is an African organization, and let's take the name in stages so that we get an understanding. Cuffy is actually our national hero, African. He is celebrated in Ghana, as you know. We have a monument in his honor. The Cuffy Monument. He was the leader of the revolt in 1763, and the Cuffy in the name Cuffy is actually that Cuffy. It's not an acronym for something else. It's the spirit of that Cuffy that we call on. The 250 in the name is that represents the 250th anniversary of the 1763 rebellion, slavery revolt. And the committee is a committee of foreign-based and local Guyanese, right, who support basically the vision and the framework and the activities of the Cuffy 250 Committee. All right, so there's a little bit about Cuffy and the 250, where the 250 came from, and the extent, the global extent of the committee.
Okay.
Now,
So what does this group do, the Cuffy 250
Cuffy
Committee?
250 Committee. All right, let me give you a little bit of context first, because everything has a context. Okay. The Cuffy 250 Committee has a concept actually which originated probably in 1966 with the formation of the country of Ghana. This is when Ghana became a republic, a new nation, 1966. And at that time, there was a vision of 6 races working in Guyana. There was a vision of 6 races working in unity, right, within the context and for the development of the country of Guyana. Between 1966 and 1992, that vision was a reality, in the sense that all 6 races participated substantively in the development in the work of the nation of Guyana. There was a national vision of Guyana, which included everybody participating, as I said, in having making significant contributions. There were no underclasses. There was no Guyanese that was more significant than other Guyanese. They were all equally significant. After 1992, something happened. And between 1992 and now, that something continues to happen to the extent where people, when you travel around the globe, they're asking, what happened to Guyana? What happened to the vision of 6 races working in unity, working in harmony to build a country? What we hear is all sorts of negative things and distortions, which leads me to believe that that vision has been corrupted. All right. So the vision is primarily the thing that guides the Cuffy 250 committee, and that is a national vision, a vision in which we go back to the time when you had all races in Guyana working to build a stronger, better Guyana, where there was no underclass, there was no greater or lesser, all right. There was, the vision then is a strong Guyana with nations, with all the races working together, where Africans have a position of strength, where Indians have a position of strength, where Chinese have a position of strength, where everybody is working from a position of strength and proud to be part of that contribution, the country, the national vision that is Guyana. So the vision is what has driven basically the formation of the Cuffy 250 committee, because in response to questions that I get asked, what happened to the black people, what happened to the Africans in the country? The vision is to contribute to the development, to the formation, to the expansion, to the revitalization, right, of the African community, so that the African community can then participate fully in accordance with the vision of Guyana, the vision of all nations working from positions of equality, parity, right, in Guyana to make a better Guyana. And I think what the things that have tended to be confusing to people is they ask, where is the African component? And it's obviously something that between 1992 and now has been marginalized. So the purpose of the committee is to focus on the African contributions, development, so that the African community can then revitalize themselves and be part again of the original national vision, which was all races working in unity for a common good, which is for a better Guyana.
Okay, that's interesting. So your focus primarily then is on raising the consciousness of African people and rebuilding that strength so that they can contribute to that national vision.
Right.
Would you say that education is a primary part of that work?
Okay, the activities that we primarily focus on is one would be the educational component, which is what contributes significantly to the raising of consciousness. All right. And the other is working in communities to help the communities themselves now organize, mobilize and revitalize. So there are two different components of the committee's work. Equally important. For the educational component, we do a lot of workshops and forums, and for work in communities, of course, we work to support communities so that their vision can then be realized as an integral part of their contribution, again from a position of strength, of their own strengths, to the Guyanese economy and to the Guyana as a nation.
So considering then that there are a number of other African organizations in the country, I mean, there are lots of groups doing many things in communities and education. Why has the Cuffy committee emerged at this time, and what do you see as its particular niche?
All right. There has been, there are lots of concepts about roles that organizations should in fact play in society. All right. One that we've oftentimes heard is, why isn't there one African organization that addresses all of the needs, of all Africans? And I think that's a very bad concept. And let me explain why it's a very bad concept. I think the more organizations, the more African organizations that you have that have their own agendas, right, then the better it is for the African community, right, for the building of the capacity of the African community. Right. So the more communities that have, the more organizations that have their own agendas. In other words, not two groups are not selling the same chair. Right? One is emphasizing one aspect, the other is emphasizing another aspect. Let me give you an example. Some of the organizations that have been established, ACTA, for example. ACTA has been here for close to 20 years. All right. They have a very defined role that they have played very well over the years. Right? They have some national activities that they participate in, like the emancipation activity on August the 1st. They do a Kwanzaa. Right? They have a school that focuses on education of the young children, and they're growing the school up with young children going from first to second to third and so forth, grades. They have a cultural perspective. Right? They do that very well. So, Pan-Af is another organization. Right?
Pan-Af, you mean
Pan-African, the Pan-African
organization. Okay.
Call it Pan-Af for short. So they have a function also. There is Ng-A-Qui committee, which is the committee that we joined with on August the 4th last year to host the August 4th State of Black African Forum. All right. So each committee has its own agenda. So it is, and that's good. That's a good thing. And if you look at it, it is important to have those committees do what they do and do it well. The concept is that of a mangrove. You know how mangroves out here?
Yes,
All
yes.
right. You have a mangrove. Okay. Have you ever seen the root of a mangrove?
Deep.
Deep is one thing, but what else?
Broad, it expands.
Many roots. It doesn't have one root.
Right.
It's not a taproot. It has many roots.
Mm.
So the concept of a mangrove is how I see the African organizations in Guyana. Many organizations, each doing what they do well and focusing on that, so that each organization could then contribute to the development and strengthening of the African community. Right? And it's quite okay to say that your African organization working to develop the strength of the African community, because every other race has that responsibility and the duty in order to advance the national image and the national
Vision.
The national vision, but not only vision, but the national position of Guyana.
Mm.
So it is imperative, it's very imperative that the roots, which means all the different African organizations form, it's important that they get strong, each individual root, so that overall capacity to feed the African segment of the Guyanese community, which is 6 races, and it's okay we are just one. Right? It's okay to strengthen that. It's perfectly okay to have many roots, strengthen that. The other thing is, because the roots sometimes hit a bad spot, and they don't get nourishment, all right, you don't want the tree to die.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
You want that root will be given a chance to revive, refocuses itself, gets some time, and then starts to revitalize. And that's the importance of many organizations, not one organization. Because if something happens to the root of that organization, the whole community dies, and that's not acceptable. And that's why it's good. Think of the concept of the mangrove. To have many African organizations, strong, very strong, and all working on their agendas to build the African community so that within the vision, not only of the Cuffy 250, but of the national vision, we have a strong Guyana.
Wow, that is pretty powerful. I,
All right,
like
so
I especially like the relationship to the mangroves.
Mangrove,
And it's very, very important. In fact, you know, whenever you see a mangrove tree, and I've seen a few, it's a massive tree. And then you think that tree alone, well, there's other things, but the tree has been there since the inception, protecting the sea defense, and that's because of the massive network, the deep, broad roots, and then the roots on roots.
Yes, and but that's
amazing.
That's the concept. That's the concept. So the whole concept of one single organization doesn't work.
Doesn't work.
It doesn't work at all. Particularly in the context of Guyana, where a root could be vulnerable.
Yes.
And it has to change.
Yes.
And that's okay. It has to deal with its issues, but it shouldn't affect the overall contribution. You know, we expect changes, we expect pressures and so forth. And so, but that should not harm the overall growth.
Goal. And
Right,
the goal,
so the vision of Cuffy and the activities and how education and so forth play into that is consistent with the national vision, not the current national vision, but the vision that
from the inception.
the vision that formed the national country, the nation of Guyana. Right? So we're going back to the vision that said all races are equal, all religions have to be treated equally. You know, the Christians have Christian holidays, so the Hindus must have their national holiday.
And the Muslims.
And the Muslims must have their national holiday. It is that, right, it is that that equality, that parity that that is the vision of Cuffy 250. But it's an African organization.
And that equality must be based on a position of strength.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ng-A-Qui, for that first segment. We're going to take a short ad break, and when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about the work and some of the specific activities that Cuffy 250 committee has been doing in Guyana. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
For just $1 million, you can have the cultural experience of a lifetime. Visit Accra, including Nkrumah Mausoleum, the tomb of George Padmore, Elmina and Cape Coast castles, Kumasi and the Volta Hydroelectric Dam, and much, much more. A non-refundable deposit is required for booking by February 15th, 2014, and the final payment due by May 15th, 2014. The tour begins on July 22nd, returning on August 6th. Contact Tom Dalgetty at 226-5159 or 690-7433.
Thanks. Welcome back. We're here talking with Dr. Ng-A-Qui of the Cuffy 250 Committee, and he is telling us about the work of the committee, introducing us to the Cuffy 250 Committee. In the early segment, we learned that the Cuffy 250 Committee is an organization set up, an African organization in Guyana, dedicated to public education and raising consciousness about the African experience in Guyana, and mobilizing, organizing, and revitalizing African communities, so that communities, African communities, and people can, from a position of strength, contribute to the vision of a united national Guyana, where people can exist equally and contribute their own strengths to national development. Again, I'm with Dr. Ng-A-Qui, and now we're going to talk about some of the specific activities that the committee has been involved in here in Guyana. Dr. Ng-A-Qui, what are some of the specific things that have been done? Tell me what has been done.
All right, some of the specific things. So we started, Cuffy 250 Committee co-sponsored the August 4th forum on the state of Black Africa in August last year.
Black African Guyana.
Black African Guyana. Black African Guyana last year. And out of that conference came we got a lot of feedback in terms of what needs to be done and what hasn't been done, and what we should be doing, and so forth. And of course, consistent with the concept of a root, right? We're not the soul of anything. We consider ourselves one of the roots of the man. All right. What could we do, and what could the foreign-based group support the local folks to do better, so that they can contribute to the African community? Education was paramount. All right. What we found out is that workshops, frequent workshops, covering a spectrum of topics, right, would be one way to make an immediate impact in the consciousness of Guyanese, what's happening with respect to a variety of things that I touch on some of those topics. But workshops frequently was a key approach, and the frequently is important. It's no point having touch on a topic now, and then 6 months later you come and you do something else, and then another 3 months you do something else. It has to be a consistency of information flow, emphasizing topics that are of interest to Guyanese, and also interested not only from the point of view of the topic itself, but from the point of view that a lot has not been spoken about, which needs to be spoken about. Let me give you an example. For the early part of this year, we touched on two topics which people don't like to talk about, but which we felt and which we still feel are critical. Race and ethnicity, right, and spirituality, specifically African spirituality. We touched on these topics, and we anticipate going forward with a lot more discussion. These topics were very well received. We hold our workshops at the Critchlow Labour College. We have been since last year. Since the first one was held at ACDA, right? After that, we've held probably about 7 workshops. We don't know of any other group that has consistently focused on that. Again, that is our niche. Right? That is how we decided to make a contribution to the consciousness. All right? Now, education is not necessarily consciousness. Right? Education is a start. Education is what provides food for thought, and it's the results of those foods that provide consciousness. What we found is there was a lack of food, so the body can't nourish itself. Yes. So, yes. Right? So we are providing that food so that the body, we can't nourish the body, we're providing the food so the body can then take what it needs. So we've had conferences, we've had workshops everything from local government, entrepreneurship, mixed race and equality and ethnicity, African spirituality. What are some of the others? You participated in some of them.
Yes.
We've had
You've dealt with business networking, Black African business, cooperatives.
So
Quite a lot. And today there was one in particular.
Today there was one. Today there's a very, very good one on the individual and personal or individual and community security. And this is the case of the Colvin Harding torture. The Colvin Harding torture. But again, that's what we do. We provide information, education, so that people can take that information and
take what
make
they
decisions.
need, what the body needs.
What the body needs. But and that's the beauty of what we do is we're and education we find is for everybody.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Our workshops are public. They're advertised. Anybody can attend, and you come and you take what you need. We're not restricting anything, but we're putting it out there.
Okay. You mentioned the State of Black African Guyana conference that was on August 4th last year. Is there another one planned for this year?
I think so. I think there's definitely one.
It's going to be just as big. I was there, the one on August 4th, and it was pretty huge. Actually, there was a lot of people.
It's going to be bigger.
It's going to be bigger. Well, we're going to look forward to that.
Excuse me.
Yeah, sorry, that's okay. So there are other activities planned, upcoming,
Well,
immediately. What do you have planned coming up immediately?
Well, sports, excuse me, the sports and community workshop, but we'll advertise that.
That'll be advertised.
That'll be advertised.
And that's coming up soon.
That's coming up soon, yeah.
That's good. We're coming up close to program time, but Dr. Ng-A-Qui, is there anything you would like to, any last words you'd like to say?
Yeah, I would like to say that in Guyana, because of the national vision that founded Guyana as a nation with 6 races, it is perfectly okay to have an African organization that is focusing on the development of Africans in Guyana. It is consistent with the national vision of building a strong nation. And this is the focus of Cuffy 250 Committee, is being one of the roots
On the mangrove tree.
on the mangrove, which would include ACTA, Pan-Af, Manumitted Africans, All African Guyanese Council. All of those are roots, and they should each get strong,
Yes.
right, so that they will contribute to the mangrove tree, and that will contribute to the overall stability
Of the nation.
of the nation.
Oh wow,
So-
that's a beautiful note to end on. I want to thank you, Dr. Norwell Ng-A-Qui, for being on the show. We're at program time now. This has been the show African Drums, brought to you by the Cuffy 250 Committee. Tonight we introduce the committee to you. Our next program will be next Sunday at 8 p.m. and you can catch us at 8 p.m. every Sunday on this channel, Channel 9. If you want more information about the Cuffy 250 Committee, feel free to check us out on Facebook. Just type in Cuffy 250 and you'll find us popping up there. You can like the page and subscribe for content. You can also send us an email at coffee250gy@gmail.com. And of course, if you would like to see this video of this show, or any video of any of the other activities of the Cuffy 250 Committee, you can check out the YouTube channel with the same name, Cuffy 250. This has been African Drums. Thank you for tuning in, and check us out again next Sunday, same time, same place. Thanks.